Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch.
The Hunger Games. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Hey, y'all. Hey. Hi, family.
Hi.
Welcome to Sisters Who Watch.
I'm Shelby.
And I'm Laura. And we're sisters who watch everything. TV, movies, sports, concerts, and even prequels to YA grounded sci-fi films. We love to watch, and we love talking about it even more. Today we're watching
The Hunger Games. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Beware. Watch out.
Shelby, a Hunger Games movie? What is this, 2011? What's going on?
I know. It's a throwback. Am I in middle school?
No, I'm back in middle school. This is crazy. So tell us more about the background of this Hunger Games prequel.
Yes, here is the logline. Coriolanus Snow. What a name. Mentors and develops feelings for the female District 12 tribute during the 10th Hunger Games. So this is a prequel film exploring Coriolanus Snow's origin story.
Such a fun name to say. It rolled right off the tongue. It rolled right off the tongue.
In the movie, they call him Choreo for short.
Yeah, like choreography.
I could barely understand. Yeah, choreography. That once I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, like choreography, great.
Yeah.
And in the original films that came out, in the 2010s, starring Jennifer Lawrence, Liam Hemsworth, and Josh Hutcherson, Coriolanus Snow is the president, the bad president, portrayed by Donald Sutherland. So if y'all remember, kind of like the older white man with like a beard, that's who we're learning more about in this prequel. And it's directed by Francis Lawrence, who directed Catching Fire and Mockingjay. So they brought him back. The franchise, of course, is based on the novel by Suzanne Collins. And she actually wrote the prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a few years ago. So that's why they decided to make the movie. Did you read the Hunger Games books, Laura?
I read the first 3 because, as I mentioned, it was really popular.
Wow.
Yeah. It was really, really popular in middle school. Like, reading was trendy back then. There was like...
If only kept that up today.
Right? I know, I don't read basically at all anymore. It's really bad. But back then, the Hunger Games was really popular. I remember Divergent was really popular. That was made into those movies.
Harry Potter.
Yes, all those. Yeah, the sci-fi YA...
It was a moment.
The movie pipeline was strong back then. Right? So I read those 3 books. I don't remember them that well. But I did see the movies. I don't know if I saw part 2 of the last one. But yes, Hunger Games Mania was real. I read all those books back in the day.
Yeah, I definitely read the first one, but don't think I read the rest. Like, that happened to me with Twilight and Harry Potter as well. Like, I read the first book because it was a craze, and then I was like, not for me. But I saw all the movies. Just could not get into reading those books. It was a little too, like, fantasy for me.
Yeah, I'm not a fantasy girly myself. I never read Twilight. That just did not really appeal to me. I saw the movies, but the books, no, not for me.
Interesting. Well, the Hunger Games was definitely an iconic franchise of our childhood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a moment, and it also really broke so many actors' careers. You think of Jennifer Lawrence, Liam Hemsworth. Josh Hutcherson had been in some stuff before that, but I think that made him more of like a name. Like, it was a big deal.
Right. And it's interesting. Also, Amanda Stenberg, you forgot to drop her name. She was Rue. Yeah, she was Rue in the movie. And then now she's been in a lot more stuff. But it's interesting. I feel like the only person from the original franchise who really has sustained is Jennifer Lawrence, right? Like, I can't remember the last thing I saw Josh Hutcherson in, or
he's in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, I definitely saw that movie. I did not even know he was in that.
He's the star.
Oh, well, I didn't see it. And I didn't know he was
You
in
didn't
it.
see the trailer? They were playing that at
No,
like every movie theater.
not the movies I was seeing. But I didn't know that. But good for him. He's got a lead role. But I have not seen him in very much since The Hunger Games. Liam Hemsworth, have you seen him in movies?
Trying to think, which is probably a sign no.
Probably not. Yeah. And Amandla, she was in The Hate You Give, and she's kind of like a personality. But I also have not seen her in that many things recently.
No.
So yeah, but it did break them. It did help them become stars, but they haven't really sustained. Jennifer Lawrence, some people argue that she is not doing as much good stuff these days. Like, I
You
didn't see
didn't
No
see
Hard
No Hard
Feelings.
Feelings?
No, no. Did you?
I did not. I It's not like I'm not a Jennifer Lawrence fan. I'm kind of in the middle. Like I'm not like, ooh, I have to see her in something. I do think she's a good actress, but I'm
Yeah.
not at the level like, ooh, if she's in like a star-led comedy, like No Hard Feelings. I'm not pressed to see it.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion about her. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna see a movie just for her. She's
No.
fine. So let's see if these stars from the prequel have popping careers, or maybe they, kind of fade out. Let's see. But what were you expecting coming into the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes?
Well, to be honest, I didn't remember much about the original movies. And because I hadn't seen them since like middle or high school, like it's not really something I rewatched. I generally
Yeah.
forgot how dark it was, that it's actually about like kids fighting to the death.
Oh
So
yeah.
once we got into the movie and the Hunger Games started, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I forgot. I was like, yikes.
Craziness.
A lot darker than I thought it was. And then I remember Donald Sutherland's character in the movies, but I didn't remember that he was Coreo, so I didn't make that connection. So I kind of went in blind, which I guess was helpful because I was really surprised. And I was just going in like, okay, I'm curious. I remember the Hunger Games. Like, I wonder how to match up.
Yeah. I agree. Coming in, I didn't know much about the movie. I just knew it was a prequel and it was about President Snow, and that was about it. Of course, I saw the movies and I read the books, so. And I remember the movies were kind of controversial because it was so many kids, right? Like middle schoolers, 10, 11, 12-year-olds reading these books about kids fighting and killing each other. And the movie was pretty dark and pretty violent, right? It's still PG-13, but still, like all these kids, like me and my friends going to movies see this movie, I remember it being really dark and intense. So
Mm.
I was curious. So I knew that. And I remember Shelby and I saw this movie together, and I was asking, do you know if this movie is rated PG-13 or R? Because Hollywood's trying to be more gritty these days. So I was like, this movie can easily be an R-rated movie because
Hmm.
it has the violence, it's very intense. And you were like, what? Of course it's PG-13. I was like, okay, well, wasn't sure.
Because they
So I
want
was
something
expecting
like
that.
this to be not family friendly, but they want it to be like all ages can see it, you know? They want it to
Right.
be more for quad. They don't want it to make it so hard R that teens and preteens can't see it. The
Right.
more like
So
grittier and dark you make it, the less appeal it has to like broader audiences, you know?
yeah, and the theater we went to was packed. We were looking for tickets all around LA because we went on Discount Tuesday, as we do,
Love
and
it.
we had to look
Always
at a
looking for a
bunch of
deal.
different theaters.
Yeah, we saw it in Century City, and in the first, was it 30 minutes or 20 minutes? The fire alarm went off. Remember?
Yes, that's so true. Yeah, the
Yeah,
fire
never
alarm
happened
went
to me
off while we
before.
were at the movie. That was crazy.
And barely anyone in the theater got up. We are all like, what's going on? And then one brave soul, thank you, sacrificed, went outside and came back saying like, oh, it was the popcorn machine. They're trying to like reboot all the movies. It's like great.
Crazy. Yeah, so when some employee burnt popcorn and ruined the movies of a bunch of packed theaters on Discount Tuesday.
Wrong
So,
time for that to
not
happen.
good. Wrong time for that to happen. It was like, yeah, prime time, like 7:30.
Hmm.
But we waited at least 15
Yeah,
minutes,
it was a
15
good
to
amount of
20
time.
minutes.
Hmm.
So, not
And the movie
ideal.
was
But
long, so it was
we
a long night for us.
Yeah, the movie was very long. So, one of the main themes of the movie is power, because all these kids from the districts, they're chosen out of a lottery to fight to the death for the entertainment of the capital, because the districts lost the war. So the capital has all this power. And they're basically doing this to assert their power and dominance over the districts, being like, this is punishment for the uprising against us, and we are asserting our power over you. So you don't forget that we're in control.
Okay, so another theme in this movie is good versus evil. And you
Mm,
see it really through Corio, right? The main character, President Snow, before he's president, because he starts off as like a kind of good guy. And then eventually we see how he evolves and changes to be evil. And it's
yes.
crazy seeing that evolution because in the beginning, he's fighting for his family because they're struggling with money and he wants to have the best grades to win the Plinth Prize.
Right.
And all the names are so weird to me. I'm like, Plinth? Plinth Prize? And then he finds out that no, the Plinth Prize won't be based on academics, but whoever helps with the Hunger Games. So he has to mentor someone, and he's really thoughtful about how he's mentoring, and he's doing anything he can to keep his mentee alive. Like all these things. Like he's a really good guy, like the first half. And then you slowly see like him kill someone, him see the value of power, and
Right.
you slowly start to see how he changes to become evil. You hate to see it,
Crazy.
but it was a good kind of villain origin story.
You see him after he kills someone, he's like, that felt powerful. Remember he said that to Tigress? And you're
Wild.
like, oh,
Yeah, and then Tigress was like, uh-oh, that's not the
uh,
cousin I know.
that's
Corio, don't say
alarming.
that. Yeah, you could tell Tigress started to get nervous.
Yeah, so after that first kill that he had, which was like out of self-defense
Yeah,
in
he was
the
protecting
arena,
him and Sejanus, like his friend.
right? But then you also see him, I think, go back and hit him
Mm-hmm.
again, and you're like, that's
There's some
not
rage in
good.
there.
Right.
A little
And you
concerning.
see him, and you also see him, remember he was ordering the waters and he's like knocking people out. And I literally thought of the Bachelor producers.
I
Did you
can't
not
with
make this parallel? I
the
was like, oh my gosh,
mentors. Like
Corio is just a Bachelor producer.
he was producing. He was definitely producing. That's what
Yes.
producers do.
He was stirring the pot, meddling, so he can get the outcome he wants, but being like, oh, Lucy Gray, like, I'm here to help you, support you. But then behind the scenes, he's pulling strings to get the results he wants, and it worked.
I w-
Crazy.
well, what's crazy about the evolution is I think initially he knew he had to do that to win the money, but also I think he wanted to protect her. But I think as he realizes power is close, it is almost less about protecting her and more about, oh, I need her to win because
Yes,
I want the power, I want the money.
exactly. It became less about Lucy Gray and protecting her, and
Mm-hmm.
more about, I want to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at any cost, he's gonna do what it takes to win.
Crazy.
And as we talked about, at first he was mentoring Lucy because he wanted to win a scholarship and help his family. You know, his house was being foreclosed on and
Mm-hmm.
all
They're
this
gonna be
stuff.
evicted. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So we see this tension between the poor and the rich. Like we mentioned, the districts where Lucy Gray is from, District 12, you see how the kids are dressed, right? Those are the poor districts. They don't have money, whereas the capital is super wealthy, super rich. And
Mm-hmm.
watching them battle each other out, these poor people battle it out, is just their fun, is their sport. So there's a lot of tension between the rich and the ultra poor.
Mm-hmm. And like eerily similar to like what we've seen throughout history, right? Like the poor people are the ones that are drafted and sent off to war, right?
Cool. Yeah.
The poor people are the ones that are like fighting in the gladiator stadiums.
Right.
And then it's all the rich people watching for amusement. Like that has always kind of been throughout history. So I think it's a
Right.
good kind of take on like class conflicts.
Definitely. And cheers to Suzanne Collins, because Hunger Games is such a unique story. You know, having these kids battle it out for the rich, and you're like, this is absurd, but you're like, we've basically done very similar things throughout history. So it's not far off. Shelby, what were some of your favorite moments of the Hunger Games Battle of Songbirds and Snakes?
What a name. So one of my favorite moments
Tongue twister.
is when Corio meets Lucy Gray for the first time. He's the only mentor that wants to meet his mentee in the Hunger Games right away. So they meet at the train, and I'm like, wow, you see, like he is trying to be a good mentor. And he decides to follow her into the van with all the other Hunger Games players, give her food, and like encourages her to sing. And you're like, wow, he's going out of his way to take care of her. And it just
Right.
pales in comparison to the other mentors. One like taunts one of their mentees and then gets killed. The that was crazy.
Crazy.
And you know, not gonna say she deserved what she got, but you don't torment your mentee with like a drink and then not expect her to like break the bottle and kill you.
Yeah, she kind
Crazy.
of was literally asking for it.
Yeah. That's why it's sad to see how Corio gets further into the evil, because he did start out like really nice and thoughtful.
I know. I agree. He saw the humanity in the tributes,
Yes.
unlike all
Yes.
the other mentors who were just like, haha, look at these animals literally in a cage at the zoo, right? And they were treating them like animals. So I know he did start off with a heart and truly wanting to help Lucy Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I know another one of our favorite moments was seeing Lucy Gray in the end winning the Hunger Games.
Yes.
But like we said, Bachelor producer meddling, Corio was out there. He was sneaking, he was
Helping
conniving.
her. He gave her
Yes.
rat poison. He made sure she wouldn't get killed by the snakes because he
Yes, by
put
putting
something
her.
that her scent
Yeah.
was on, so they got familiar with her so they wouldn't kill her. He, like you said earlier, sent water to her, but ended up killing like her opponents because the water flying thingies weren't well controlled. Like it was basically Corio and Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray could not have done it
Oh,
on her
yeah.
own.
No, not at all. So it
I
was
feel
cool
like
seeing how Corio was moving in order to help Lucy Gray.
it was showing Corio enjoy the games. Like he was so
Mm-hmm.
invested. And I think that's when he started to be like, oh, this is
This is
kind of
fun.
fun. And even how he built a kind of like a friendship or like mentorship relationship with Viola Davis's character, Volumnia Gall. These names are crazy. Dr. Gall, I think. Um like he was like the star student when it came to the Hunger Games. He was giving her great ideas and he like wanted to like learn more about what she was working on. And you could see, he's interested in this. He is curious and
Oh,
even
yeah.
is good at playing the Hunger Games and knowing how to help his, tribute win.
Right. Yeah, he was giving lots of good ideas. Like, oh, well, they need to get to know the tributes for
Mm-hmm.
audiences to be captivated into the games. And it worked, right? Lucy Gray was singing, and he was talking about her with Lucky Flickerman on the news show, and people were getting invested and were rooting for her. So he had really good ideas. And yeah, he was gifted at making the game successful and more watchable. Disturbing.
Very. Very. He was a
Yeah.
natural talent at the Hunger Games.
Yeah. And I know
And
that you also really enjoyed Lucky Flickerman. We just mentioned him. He was toxic, but he did have some good jokes.
the weatherman / host / broadcaster, the only one that could do it. He was so funny, but problematic.
Oh, yeah.
And it reminded me of Stanley Tucci and Elizabeth Banks characters in the OG Hunger Games movies.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were similar, kind of like these aloof, problematic figures who would be like hosting and like telling jokes. And Lucky was like perfect.
Yeah. He was great. He was super funny,
Always laughed.
delusional. Yeah. Had lots of jokes. Very full of himself. So, great host for the Hunger Games.
Yes. Perfectly
Yes.
cast.
This movie had it was a roller coaster, ups and downs, right? And seeing after Lucy Gray wins and Corio convinces Viola Davis's character to end the games now that Lucy has won and was the only one not killed by all the snakes. You see Corio following Lucy to District 12 after
he gets banished, right? He gets punished. Corio gets punished for helping Lucy Gray in the games by being banished to another district to work in the army. And he begs to be sent to District 12, where Lucy Gray is.
He's like, I gotta be near her. And it's
unrequited love.
Yeah, definitely unrequited. And it gets, a little sus at the end, to say the least. And Lucy Gray's like, oh, let's just escape together. And Lucy Gray, after Corio has a hand in killing
Sejanus.
What? Yes. After Corio has a hand in killing Sejanus, his friend who wanted to do good, who was the son of the really rich guy from the capital, but really wanted to give back and take down the games, do what he can to help people. Corio had a hand in killing him, and that was very disturbing. And then Lucy Gray is like, I gotta get out of here. This guy's up to something. They're in a cabin in the woods alone together. She's gotta go. So I enjoyed seeing Lucy Gray get away because Corio was just collecting bodies.
Yeah, I think she was picking up on signs and hints like, oh, this is not the guy that I fell in love with. He is changing. No. He is backstabbing his friends. He's willingly killing people. And I think there's a moment when they're in the woods heading to the cabin and they were talking about like no more killing, no more hurting people. And she asked how many people have you killed? He was like, oh, only 3. And she was like, oh, I thought it was 2. And he was like, oh, I also killed myself. I think he said 3 because he knew he was going to kill someone else, being her, because she was the last loose end. She was the only other person that knew about how the mayor's daughter in District 12 died. She knew all his secrets. So I think he was going to kill Lucy Gray. Oof. And she felt it.
Knew too.
Especially when they get to the cabin and he finds the handguns and he's holding one. And he turns around and looks at Lucy Gray. And he's like, here are the guns. And you could see her face. She was like,
ha ha.
Oh, wow, how convenient.
Wow,
the guns are here.
Gun.
And she is like, oh, I think I'm going to go outside and look for food. And he's like, it's raining. She was like, oh, no, it's fine. Red flag. We never see her again. And
good.
I'm so glad she was able to escape. We're not positive, though, that she did, because Corio eventually follows from the wood with a gun and is shooting around looking for her and hears her singing via the songbirds, so gets really disoriented. And then we see one of her earrings in the forest. So we assume she got away and was not hit by one of Corio's bullets. We have to hope
Right, because
so.
we would have seen her
Her
body or
body,
something.
right? That's
Yeah.
what I think.
How'd she get away?
That's the
Lots of
thing.
questions.
Oof. So
So,
honestly, glad Lucy Gray got away. Sad Corio is becoming a villain. But I did like his normal haircut at the end. That was a favorite moment. Seeing him at the end standing from that fountain with his like cute haircut in like a suit or coat, looking like a villain, looking like a baddie. I was like, okay, Corio, you've come a long way. Don't love the
he glowed
arc.
up.
You glowed up, but you're looking good.
Yeah, his fashion arc was good, but the personality character arc
Bad.
bad.
Fashion,
Bad.
hair, makeup, great.
I mean, villains tend to have the best fashion, if we're being
They
honest.
do. Always great. Dark colors.
Yeah. So he had the villain glow up, right? What were some of your least favorite moments from the movie?
Well, Corio didn't have that many friends, but one of his classmates, Clemencia, who they were lab partners or whatever, she lied about working on a paper with Corio together to Dr. Luminier Gall. Dr. Gall could kind of tell. So she was like, she dropped the papers into a big tin of deadly
Snakes.
snakes
Yeah.
and was like, oh, well, if you wrote it, they'll notice your scent and won't bite you. So go fetch the papers from the bin. And Corio's there and he's like, Amencia, don't do it. Don't do it. She does it, trying to fake that she wrote the papers, then gets bit, and we never see her again.
Like, did she die? They
We
said that
don't
she got an
know.
illness, but that's all we
Yeah.
really heard.
Yikes. Don't
Why
lie,
would she do
people.
that?
So stupid. Why not just own
Why?
up and say, actually, I lied, I didn't write the paper with Corio? Why risk your life?
Because you know that snake is going to bite you. Why would she do that? That was
So
so
stupid.
dumb.
So yeah, that was the least favorite moment for me.
So dumb. Yeah, I
Didn't love.
agree. That was rough. And yeah, as you mentioned, you were a little shook at how dark the movie was. And just when the Hunger Games first starts, you just see all the kids running at each other and you're like, "Oh my
Oh,
gosh, it's happening."
oh
And
my
people are grabbing
gosh.
spears and
Yeah.
knives
And there were sick
and just
kids, disabled kids,
yeah.
and they didn't care. They're like, okay, you're an easy target. Let's kill
Bye-bye.
you. Rough.
And
I was like, oh
that's
no.
I know, and it's giving like Squid Games too, another
Yes.
parallel. How the poor people gotta fight each other, to just literally survive and
Crazy. There's no
pay
money at
off
the end that
debt.
they're winning.
No, no one is winning. Only the rich people are winning. They're laughing at us,
Crazy.
fighting each other.
It'd be
They're like,
like that.
ha, look at
Ha ha
them.
ha. Look at them running around, fighting.
Hee hee hee.
Oh.
Fighting for their lives. Ha ha ha.
Entertainment.
It's so
Ooh.
true. It happens
Tough.
every day. It's
Tough,
very
tough,
sad.
tough. Another least favorite moment for me is just Corio turning dark in general. We talk about a little bit of his evolution, but the fact that he set up Sejanus, someone who he had saved before during the Hunger Games when he went to check on his friend and mentee.
Right.
He killed all the loose ends and almost killed Lucy Gray. After being such like a genuine guy in the beginning, I was like, nah, not Corio turning bad.
So bad.
Like good
That was, yeah,
storytelling, but sad.
it was sad because, yeah, he genuinely wanted to help Lucy, but then he just flipped. On to our categories. Okay, Shelby, who or what did you love to hate in this movie?
Shockingly, I'm going to say Corio because he seemed like a root-worthy character in the beginning and then turns dark and killing people.
Yeah.
So I love to hate him because I think he was a really good character. I thought the actor did a great job showing his evolution, growth, how he started to change. And so I was rooting for him. Like I wanted him and Lucy to win the Hunger Games, but then by the end I was like, dang, I'm not happy about you anymore.
That's fair. I think he's probably in my hate to hate. He just became so evil. He
Oh
was like,
no. Nothing
after
redeeming.
killing someone, I felt so powerful. And I was like, oh no.
Tough.
That's really, really bad. So, yes, in the beginning, he had good intentions, but everything else negated it. He went on a killing spree. He's basically a serial killer. And he had a plotted attack against Lucy Gray. Did he actually love her? No, he didn't actually love her.
You don't think
He
he
just
actually
saw
loved
her as...
her?
No.
I
Do
think
you?
there was a point when he did. And then the power took over. But I do think initially he started to care.
I think he cared about her because he was like, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for this person. I'm her mentor.
Like, why else would he go to District 12 and, like, start a relationship with her? You know?
He was obsessed with her. I don't think that's love. I think he was obsessed. He was like infatuated. He was like, oh my gosh, my mentee. I gotta follow her.
Agree to disagree.
And love to hate. I'm gonna put Lucy Gray in there.
Tell us why.
She was... I know she was kind of painted to be, the hero and really likable and people loved her. I don't know, it didn't really translate to me. I also felt like there's a lot of singing. I know she's a songbird, but I was like, why is she singing like all the time? I don't know.
Agree about the singing. There was too much singing throughout the movie.
Too much.
Second, I thought her accent was strange. Like, she was talking like kind of country southern, but District 12 wasn't giving that, and no one else was talking like her. So it was like, who told her to do this accent?
It was a choice.
It was a choice. Interesting one. And I also felt that Lucy Gray didn't feel like as big of a character as they wanted her to be, if that makes sense. Like, I agree. I think they wanted her to be the hero. We're rooting for her. I felt like I was rooting more for Corio than Lucy Gray at points. And she's played by Rachel Zegler, who's in West Side Story. And I honestly felt similar about her performance in that, where the side characters really popped and crushed it, right? Arnie DeBose won the Oscar. But she kind of fell flat a bit. I feel like Lucy Gray fell a little bit flat. And like the other characters popped more.
I agree.
Yikes.
She was one of the protagonists.
Yeah,
and
like co-lead.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't really rooting for her, right?
No.
So, yeah, she was okay. I also know we talked about Lucky Flickerman. He was very funny, even though he's problematic and pretty evil. He was the one source of comic relief in the movie.
Which we needed. It's a dark movie.
Yeah.
We needed to laugh.
We needed a laugh. So, yeah, anytime he was on screen, you're like, okay, like something funny is going to happen.
Yes.
So I enjoyed the Weatherman, Flickerman.
Agreed.
And he would always do magic tricks. Remember that? That was funny.
It was. Honestly, if he wasn't so problematic, he might have been in Love to Love, but had to be in Love to Hate. He's a little too out of touch.
And we love Viola Davis. She's one of our queens. But however, I see that, Shelby, you have Dr. Gall under Hate to Hate.
Yeah, because she created the Hunger Games. She was the mastermind of all the games and spent like her life creating like poisonous snakes to kill people. Like, she was crazy. Her outfit was crazy. Her makeup was crazy. Her look, everything was crazy about her. Yeah. And every time it was on screen, I was like, this is a little too much for me. And I love Viola. She's one of my favorite actors. But it was a lot. Yeah. And she was the clear villain. There was nothing good about her. It was just villain, villain, villain.
Definitely giving evil. I have to say, like, it was giving camp. It was giving villain. So over the top. Over the top. Right. So I did enjoy seeing her on screen because she was bringing something, right? It was kind of how I feel about Lucky Flickerman. Obviously problematic, but I enjoyed seeing Viola on stage doing all the theatrics.
I'm screaming. So you have her in Love to Hate?
No, she's probably still in Hate to Hate, but she was probably the most interesting character in the movie. So
interesting.
Who do you have for Love to Love?
Well, I'm gonna say Tigress. Rawr, like a tiger. I think Tigress was a bit underutilized.
I
Played by
agree.
Hunter Schafer from Euphoria. And it felt like they had Hunter doing a lot of promotion, but wasn't in the
Oh
movie that
yeah,
much, a la
barely.
Issa in Barbie and Spider-Verse. But whenever Tigress was on screen, I was like, oh, good to see you. You were kind of like the emotional, positive, grounded person
Right.
trying to be there for Corio, trying to encourage him, remind him what he's fighting for with his family.
She was definitely underutilized. She was in a lot of the marketing. Yeah, she was really in the movie. And our last person that we have for Love to Love is Sanjanis Flint?
So Janice.
Sejanus. I don't know how to pronounce these names. So, but he was really good. I liked him. He actually wanted to help people, and
I
he was like, "What the
know.
Capitol's doing is wrong." I really liked him, but Corio turned on him, recorded him, sent the audio to Dr. Gall, and then he was like, "Nothing's gonna happen to him. His dad is rich. Nothing's gonna happen to him." And then he was hung. He was hanged. That was so
Crazy.
sad, all because
That
of
was really
Corio.
sad. I also
Yeah,
feel like Sejanus was almost like too good for his own good. Like he was
I know.
just so willing to like be a good person and fight for what he believed in that he's almost like a martyr. So I was not shocked, to be honest, that he ended up dying at the end because he was putting himself in situations to be hurt because he was trying to do good.
100%. I was sad when he died. He deserved better. So he was probably my favorite character in the film. I liked him.
Aligned.
Okay.
Game
Shelby,
time.
game time. Red flag, green flag. 1, 2, 3. Shelby, is it a red flag to start a relationship with your mentee?
Ooh. So basically, Corio starting a relationship with Lucy Gray. I think it depends on the circumstances, but in this one, bright red. Like, Corio has all of the power, and Lucy Gray has, like, none. She is a tribute from a poor district about to fight to the death.
Right,
And Corio is in the capital. This is like a game for him, like whether or not he'll get money so he can like go to school and like pay off rent. You know? Like just the
right.
stakes are so different, the worlds are so different. And knowing how it ends with him wanting to kill her, it's like, whoa, you should not have put your mentee, right, if you really cared and were trying to look out for her in that kind of situation. And you should not have let love feelings get into that. So I think it's a red flag.
Yeah, I think it's almost always a red flag. Because when you're a mentor to someone that's typically in a work setting or a maybe an extracurricular setting or maybe sports, like you're typically on some type of team or organization, and it just sets up immediately a strange power dynamic.
I
Like I'm
know.
supposed to be teaching you something, I'm probably older than you, and if you start dating that person, that's just very strange. When you're supposed to be helping them and teaching them, it just creates a really weird dynamic.
I know. I was trying to think like what situation would be okay because I was like, it depends on the situation, and I'm trying to think still. Okay. Next question. Laura, is it a green flag to pursue someone even though you've never kissed or dated?
So basically, what Corio does with Lucy Gray, he follows her to District 12, actively pursuing her. Um, mm, I, I would not say it's a green flag. I mean, especially within the movie, right? Like he's following her and changing the whole trajectory of his life to see her. Um, I think is bizarre. I think it depends at the extent. What does a pursual look like? Are you if you're following them to another state or something like Corio did? I think that's a red flag. But if it's someone who you really care about and you're interested in, even though you might not, have confessed your love for this person or something physical had happened, I think it really depends. So I think it could be a green flag. I'm a bit in the middle. What do you think?
Definitely a red flag for Corio.
Yeah.
I It's weird because it's like pursue someone. It's like, are you visiting them on a trip, like in past lives?
Mm,
Like, are you in town and you're just like, oh, let me say hi? Like, it depends. Like you said, the situation. Like, are you guys
right.
best friends, but you haven't been honest with her how you feel? And you're like, okay, let me just move to another state to tell her? That might be weird if you decide to move, which is what Choreo did. So I think
Yeah.
it depends on the stakes, the situation. Like, I think if you decide to visit someone, be like, hey, it'd be great to catch up. I care about you, da da da, profess your love. That's romantic. But
Right.
moving somewhere,
Uprooting your life.
uprooting your life,
Bye.
it's giving kind
Bye.
of like obsessed,
Yes.
stalkerish.
Very. So not a
Fine
green
line.
flag.
Fine line between green and red, I think, for this one.
I agree. Okay, how do we feel about Hunger Games Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes? Was it a wait or a watch?
I think it's a watch. It was a well done prequel. And in particular, the origin story for me, I think, was really strong. The fact that you see Choreo evolve from being like a good guy to then this like very powerful, dark, evil villain by the end, that's crazy. And I think they did a
Right.
good job in like 3 different chapters of the movie doing that. And I also think the acting was really good. I know we talked about Lucy Gray and Rachel Zegler not being the best, but I think the main actor, Tom Blythe, I think his name is, I think he did really good. And I'm curious, like if we were saying before, if this will help launch careers like the previous installments.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a watch, particularly if you are a Hunger Games fan and you've
Yes.
read some of the books or seen the movies. Because I think you don't need to have seen any of the Hunger Games movies to understand this movie, which I
No.
think is good. And if you listen to our episode about the Marvels and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, we talk about how those movies are way too referential and it's confusing if you aren't basically a super fan. But this
Mm-hmm.
movie, you don't need the context of the other films. So I do applaud that. And yeah, it's a good origin story, it's a good villain story. So just taking it out of the realm of the Hunger Games, I think it is a well done, well written movie. Big story arc, and there's so much change within Coriolanus in this movie. So I enjoyed it.
Now for our what to watch segment. This movie did have me thinking about possibly watching the OG Hunger Games movies.
Mm.
They're currently streaming on Peacock. So for those of you who have Peacock and want to watch more Hunger Games, go for it.
And if you want to see more of Hunter Schafer, go watch Euphoria. I know that we're not the biggest Euphoria fans, but
No.
a lot of people do like it.
And apparently the 3rd season isn't going to come until 2025. Like, what year is
I'm
it?
checking my watch. I'm like, what year are we in? 2025. What?
Yikes. And then for those of you who haven't seen West Side Story, you can go check that out to see Rachel Zegler's debut. It's crazy. That was her acting debut to be in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. Insane.
Wild.
And she also was cast as Snow White in the live action Snow White remake that Disney's doing.
Wow.
It was supposed to come out next year, but it's also been pushed to 2025. So, bit of time to wait if you want to see new Rachel
Now,
Zegler
any of
content as
these
well.
people act again. Crazy. Well, at least the strike is over. So at some point, we'll get new content.
Yes.
Yay.
Exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for watching and listening to this episode.
Yes.
We really appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts,
5 stars only.
Spotify, wherever you stream podcasts. 5 stars. It means a lot to us. And follow us on Instagram at Sisters You Watch and all social medias. TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're everywhere. So go find
Instagram.
us.
Yes. We want to hear from y'all. You can DM us on social media. You can email us, sisterswhowatch@gmail.com. Please stay in touch. Give us recommendations. We appreciate all of y'all so much.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Stay watching.
Everything. Stay watching.